15th of February 2025 at 8:39 p.m. here on Harstine Island, Washington, United States of America. Welcome once again to our cosmic journey. I am the designer, he is the engineer, and together we make the astrology. I'm your designer, Jake. Engineer Trey's over there. Hello, Trey.
Hello, Jake. I decided that I look better from the side.
Yeah, you know,
it's like a 3/4 view.
Feel free to. You know what we learn when we volunteer at the library is when we're working with patrons, and this is good for everybody, is that you don't ever directly face somebody because it's a very aggressive stance. So you stand at about like 2.5 degrees off. And so if you notice people standing about like that's not 2.5 degrees. Also,
but it is a good look.
Sure it is. Let us know below. The comments have been coming in fast and furious for all of our requests. Let us know below how you feel about Trey's side boob. We're starting a little late today. We're going to, of course, move a little fast. We do have things to show, so that does portend that we are going to move a little bit faster. Today's episode is called Dash to the Finish, episode 74, and I have a check-in question. We have some stuff to show from Mr. Henry, and a big thank you. You'll notice over here, this is our first episode that we stopped using Obsidian, and now we are using Notion, which is now, we have an icon and clip art possibilities on that one. Exciting on that. Exciting news, everybody. But let's not marvel at Notion. Let's instead marvel at my check-in question. Mr. Henry, some things go south as you get older. You know, we have to eat more fiber for reasons. We have to take vitamins for reasons. We have to use certain hair chemicals for reasons. Feel free to look at episode 50 up there where we talked about that. My question for you is, what actually gets better for you, or what has been getting better for you as you've been getting older?
Yeah, it's a good question. Also very affirmative.
It is affirmative.
Yeah, but I think one of the things that has been really wonderful about getting older is, and I've heard this from lots of people, so this is definitely not unique to me, but just really caring a lot less about what other people think. Yeah. And just, you know, when I was much younger, I was very self-conscious, and of course, I still have some of that. It's not like completely gone, but as I've gotten older, like other people's opinions about me, like you sort of get to a certain point in life and you realize that if you're not ruffling some feathers, then probably you're just kind of skating through or whatever. And so then, so eventually, like, people end up, having their own opinions.
I love that. Now, usually a strength overplayed is a weakness. And so the warning sign I give you is, if you overplay the not caring so much, then you turn into that guy that we know, that guy exists everywhere, which is, everything's so PC. I don't understand why everyone's so sensitive in this world. And I just like to tell it like it is. And I read a tweet a long time ago that talked about, like, it made the observation that someone who says, I like to tell it how it is, doesn't then all of a sudden become emotionally vulnerable with you. They usually are just like very closed off. And so as long as you're not closed off, that's great. I love that you get a little bit older, you care a little bit less about what people feel and think, but you keep in mind that doesn't allow you to be calcified in how you deal with this world.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I think it's more the things that other people put on you that you care less about, right? It's not so much about, because I actually find myself far more interested these days in the interesting lives of other people. And I think because that sort of like caring about there's an interesting inversion thing also from getting young to going older, where when you care a lot about what other people think, that's actually you being kind of very selfish with your attention, because you're constantly thinking about what other people think about you. And most of the time, the answer is they're not. They're not. They don't give two shits about you for the most part.
They don't think about you.
Yeah. And so I think it's partly also internalizing that. And so then when you do have a conversation, like if you meet somebody new and you find out, and you start asking them questions about what they do and things like that, I feel like I'm far more interested and able to really engage with them on that stuff that they do. I agree with you that can turn into calcification, but yeah, let's hope not.
I just realized when I said that, it sounded like what we were doing is a performance review where I was talking about your strength and then overplaying your strength. Classic Jake.
Classic.
Kind of manager move where I'm like, your strength overplayed is your weakness. And so let's talk about that. And everyone's like, oh, and I was like, it's not brain surgery. It's the way that humans work.
For sure. Yeah. What about you? What do you think has gotten older? I'm sorry. What do you think has gotten better as you've gotten older?
Everything has gotten olher. Everything. Look at this hairline. Everything is older.
Oh, it's looking pretty good still.
No, thanks. Yeah, a Brogain. That's what we were calling it. Right. Thanks, Brogain, for that. For me, I would say the thing that I have really enjoyed about getting older is having more emotional regulation. And where most people have big highs and big lows, for me, actually, I was pretty unemotional actually as a kid. And I have learned to figure out how to tune it up so that I do have highs and lows. Because, and Trey might agree, given that he has now dated an Aquarius for 21 years. His previous longest relationship was an Aquarius and his dad's an Aquarius. Aquarians don't usually have feelings. They have very static types of ways. And there's something really nice about that, which is like this kind of calm demeanor and kind of still pondness that's nice for folks that might be a little bit more emotional and need a little bit of help with that. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that showing emotion is a form of vulnerability, and it's hard to be vulnerable. Everyone wants everyone else to be vulnerable, but they won't be vulnerable themselves. And so allowing myself to show that emotion and tweak it up a little bit, where a lot of people have to tweak it down, I had to tweak it up, and that has been really nice, actually, getting older.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, actually. And I would say too that, like, for just to dip into astrology for a second, because of it's sun.
Kind of strange. Kind of strange.
Yeah, for us to actually talk about astrology because we have
an astrology podcast. Go ahead.
The sun in Aquarius. It's like those kind of like Aquarian themes and sort of like how you present to the world, definitely in there. But then depending upon what else is going on, particularly with the rising sign and the moon, then you'll have like very different sort of internal expressions of that. Because I think there a lot of Aquarians, sun in Aquarius might interface with the world in a very sort of emotionally well-regulated way. But often just under the surface is like a swimming whirlpool of, difficult emotions.
Good check-in, everybody. Good check-in.
Yeah, good check-in.
You wanted to show some stuff. We want to talk a little bit about like what you did this week?
Yeah, so this week we did a lot of work around the royal we did a lot of work around it's still a lot of plumbing stuff for the replatformization, but one of the things that was that I was really excited about with moving to the new platform was to have the opportunity to deal with this kind of difficult chicken and egg problem, which I might have mentioned last time, I can't remember, of getting the application initially set up. This obviously for like a production environment or for a staging environment, that's a pretty infrequent thing to have to do. But in a development environment and in test environments, it's happening all the time. And when you have an application stack, which is ultimately backed by like a database backend, you always have to deal with this, like, what is the state of the database? Like, does it have the correct schema? Is it updated? Does it have the right data in it for whatever that environment is? In order to do that in a way that's easy, you would want somebody to just be able to like log into a dashboard and then see like, oh, here's the stuff that, like it's connected, it's, it's running this version of the DB or whatever. Unfortunately, if the database hasn't even been created yet, then you don't have a database to to try to figure out who that user is or authenticate them. For our server, we inject a secret into that environment, like something like a GUID, and then that just gets generated automatically, injected into the environment, and then we can check against that. Then means we don't have to have a database yet set up. And I'm actually going to demo this. And so, so we can monitor if people are trying to attack it. But this connected to the Cosmic DB, this is actually running a SQL statement against the database endpoint, but there's no database there yet, actually. So the Cosmic DB is not actually set up. And just to show this a little bit, so ignore most of this, but basically there's a query that's happening here, which is just a SQL select statement. And we're just saying, I'm just passing a message into it and then getting that response and showing it back to the user. But we're connecting to a database called Template One. That's a administrator system that is available when PostgreSQL is initially set up, which is what we use for our database backend. And then when you connect to that, then you can actually like create a database and run, the schema updates. Run the migrations, run the seeds that populate the database with data, et cetera. And then you can show from that dashboard every step of the way so that, and even show like, the database is at this particular version and it needs to be at this particular version. One of the things that I'm kind of excited about is that because Sobolo in Cosmic now has more interesting API functionality that's available to it, we will actually be able to get some interesting data out of the backend and then port that into Notion so that we can have dashboards within Notion as well that might have things like business intelligence and graphs and all kinds of cool stuff. We've seen
this is how we are going to be business intelligent.
Somebody that we know that runs a business that's good and popular has a dashboard for all of the stuff that happens in classes that they teach and in information coming in from like their websites and socials and all of this kind of stuff, and it comes into like this big Notion managed dashboard for basically knowing where things are at, whatever. And I thought that was really cool and kind of inspiring. So
super cool and very inspiring. I love it. Well, thank you for showing that. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to find out what you're planting in the spring and get your midwinter seeds going. Let's get the water going. Let's do that. So let's do some prep. Get those midwinter seeds going. You are not going to tell us, Mr. Henry, what is happening. You can do that next week. Do that as your check-in question. Be well. Take care. We love you very much. We will see you again next weekend or whatever day you watch this video. We love you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.